Morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Angela with another edition of Notes on the News. It's not news, it's just where I read to you headlines from my news feed and give you my thoughts and perspective on those headlines, on the stories, on the subject matter at large based on having read the headline or being an expert matter on the subject or somewhere in between. I'm Angela and the channel is Be Fabulous You. Let us proceed. Robots aren't just taking our jobs, they're creating them. Here are 21 weird jobs humans will have in the future. It makes sense, things balance out. There are two sides to the coin. What's a depression for some people is like a source of abundance and wonderful times, happy days for some other people. A professor of medicine explains why eating fat won't make you fat, but sugar will. Sugar, the evil. Turkish capital Ankara bans all gay rights functions. So you can't have an art exhibit, you can't have a movie theater, you can't have a parade. I mean, not a movie theater, a movie festival. I think that's what started it all off. You can't have a parade. We're not here for none of it. And they say that it's dangerous because some people are going to get upset by it and it may hurt the gay people. It's not illegal to be gay in Turkey, they say, but that may hurt the gay people if the people get upset, and also it may attract terrorists. Love has no border. Getting married at the U.S.-Mexico border's Door of Hope. It seems like I might have heard about this before, but I guess periodically, one time a year, 3 times a year, the borders between the U.S. and Mexico are open and people get married and you can visit and interact with people without a visa. Thousands run in Delhi smogathon. It wasn't technically designed to be a smogathon, but it was a marathon, a half marathon, and the smog levels were really, really high. Not as high as they were a week ago, a month ago, when they had to issue a state of emergency, but higher than is considered safe. But people just went ahead and ran anyway. So in a lot of these countries, I guess, there's just a lot of issues with smog and air. It's such a conversation throughout the world, it seems, of having air that is safe to breathe. And I'm seeing more and more stories and noticing more and more stories of cities and places where, the air can't be breathed. And air doesn't have any borders. So if it's increasing throughout the world, it's affecting all of us in small ways that we can't even necessarily, I think, appreciate, because some things are subtle. What happened? Morocco food stampede kills 15 and wounds 5. An aid organization was giving out food and there was a stampede. I heard that 40 people were injured also, but they say that it was mostly elderly people and women who were coming to get food from, like, hey, I'm a charity, I got some food to give out, and, people were stampeding. I don't know why, and, but I don't know if it was like, they're like, no, I want the food, give me, I'm not really clear. Tearing down the toxic male fraternity. I started reading the article, but I didn't have time to finish it. But it was an interesting piece. So check out Be Fabulous You, my news feed, if you want to search for it and try to find it. That was the title. Beijing housing block fire, 19 people killed. And I think this is in a place where a lot of migrants tend to live. And I heard in that article they were saying that fires and things are kind of common because they don't really have regulations, so many, and if they have regulations, the corporations just ignore them, which sounds like something that we're heading for in this country more and more and more. We're heading back to. Bristol sailor dies in clipper round the world race. Yeah, he was an older man and he died. Hold on a second. French policeman kills 3 and himself north of Paris. It was another case having to do with domestic violence because I think he killed his wife, his mother, someone who was connected to him, as well as 2 innocent bystanders. How a guy who sold phones at a Sprint store in Detroit or in Michigan landed his dream job in venture capital with just 1 tweet. He reached out to someone that he had admired, he followed on Twitter, and asked for a book recommendation. And I don't know, she followed him back and they ended up, hold on a second. So it's like a case of relationship building. I'm at the theater, so there's a lot of activity going on. Scammers are stealing people's money through a scheme that has nothing to do with your password. I can't even remember what that was. Zimbabwe's ruling party sacks Robert Mugabe as leader. So he got fired by the ruling party. They're telling him, it's sort of like, it seems like an orderly way to transition power. I heard that his wife had gotten fired from the party before, so that she's not able to take over leadership, and they're giving him a certain number of days to resign or something. So supersonic flights could return soon. Did they leave? They're saying they're really expensive, but they've made some adjustments in how they handle them, so it may be like the wave of the future. Supersonic. Libyan migrant slave market footage sparks outrage. So the African Union is like, this is not cool, we don't like this. You know, just because someone, or I'm looking at it, I'm like, just because someone is an immigrant doesn't mean that they're not a human being and that you can own them. So, exclusive, Donna Brazile said the Clinton campaign treated her like Patsy the slave. And when I saw that one interview of her someplace, she acted like a black woman who felt like somebody was treating her like Patsy the slave. She kind of had that vibration, so that headline didn't surprise me. That's coming off of Atlanta Black Star. Somaliland is first in world to use iris recognition in a presidential election. So they're like ahead of the curve on technology. And there's some process where they try to jump the curve of technology. So instead of, and then I found out that Somaliland is in Somalia. Never even heard of Somaliland. Clemson's new $55 million football complex shows how swanky college football facilities have become. Discounts on small cars are soaring as the market stampedes toward SUVs. I love a small car. Drone footage captures extent of U.S. oil leak. It's a really ugly looking image. It's like the inside story of a bizarre Netflix documentary showing Jim Carrey in character as Andy Kaufman for 4 months, both on screen and off. He took that role very seriously. He might be a very serious actor. He's pretty talented as a comedian and as an actor. What's that movie where he's like born on film and he doesn't know he's in a reality show, but he is. That was one of my, I think that's a really good show. 11 countries to visit where you can get the most bang for your buck on airfare. I was just having a conversation yesterday about traveling and how somehow in my head I'm like, oh, I'm too old to travel. If I was young, I would travel. If I was old, I would travel. But, somehow I put myself like where I'm like, but I travel. I got to travel more. So, yes. Argentina missing submarine. Satellite signals detected. So, the submarine was missing. I think we talked about it yesterday, and they've detected signals. Gun owners are getting around legal restrictions by making their own ghost guns. And I've seen this, usually people who are like really into, like as a hobby, people construct things like guns or whatever. And so this is normally something that someone who's a hobbyist would do. But hobbyists can be crazy too. But it's harder to regulate someone, just like when you, what was it called, a block, when they took the automatic and added something aftermarket to make it, they took a semi-automatic, added something aftermarket to make it an automatic. Constructing guns kind of takes it out of the realm of regulation theoretically or in practical sense, not in theory, but in practical sense. So they're saying that that's a concern for some people. For other people, I guess they're like, good, the more the merrier, make all the guns. And I think it's a good idea. It's interesting to know how to create things, right? I don't know if I want to know how to create a gun, but the darkest material on Earth will be used in the 2018 Winter Olympics. Here's what makes it so unique. I skimmed it, but I didn't get a chance to read the whole article. 15 convictions linked to corrupt Chicago cop are thrown out. So the cop, if I remember the story correctly, would stop people and be like, do this or do that, or I'm going to arrest you. And then if they didn't do it, he would arrest them and stuff drugs in their pockets and then say, hey, he had drugs, that's why I arrested him. So they've only overturned 15 of his convictions. I don't know if he was a new cop and had only arrested 15 people, if they're investigating other cases that he was involved with or connected with. But, yeah, that's coming off of Atlanta Black Star. So that's a good, I guess that's good news in a way. But I feel bad for people who were wrongly convicted and, had to go through drama, trauma, stress, BS over somebody else's evilness and evil doing. Another celebrity split. What can be learned from JHud's broken engagement? I still don't understand why anybody is engaged for 10 years. I don't understand it. So it always seems sort of suspect to me. And, I don't know why it's more than a year or 2 years. If you have wealth and resources, if y'all want to get married, why are you engaged? Olympic medalist Gabby Douglas tells women to dress modestly in response to former teammate's sexual assault allegation. Baby girl, dressing modestly doesn't have anything to do with it. It's sort of kind of an ancillary off to the side issue. That's not the main issue. You can dress as modestly as you want, and that's like a blame the victim mentality. So yeah, some of her teammates checked her, and she said that she was misunderstood and she didn't mean it that way. So I don't know, I guess we all got to learn and get out here and experience and think about some things and be exposed to some new ideas. And sometimes we just say things that we've heard other people say, or say things that sound good that we haven't really thought through. Hidden camera shows nurses laughing as an 89-year-old man dies in a nursing home. Hidden cameras reveal a lot. I guess your heart and how you move in the world can't really be hidden, but I guess, I don't know if y'all can, again, I'm at the theater, so sound quality is going to be compromised. Sorry about that. So let's try to hurry up. U.S. military releases data on sexual assaults in military base. The world's biggest lithium battery farm. Ernestine Wade, renowned actress best known in role as Sapphire. I have a line in the show where I say, "Just a minute there, Sapphire." Is that the same Sapphire? That's from Amos and Andy. Catherine Hall Bogle, early journalist and first black woman to hold a state government position in Oregon. The Brownsville affair, the injustice that led to 167 black soldiers being dishonorably discharged, the largest U.S. Army dismissal in history. Of course, it happened to black folks. They investigated apparently twice. The first time was relatively close in time to when it actually happened, and that investigation found that the dismissal was a correct action. The second investigation, I think, happened in 1982 or somewhere in the, closer to time now, and it was found to be some bull. I don't know. I'm just reading the story. Sri Lanka violence, 19 held amid Buddhist-Muslim street clashes. These Buddhist-Muslim things are really kind of interesting. I guess as someone who has studied meditation, I don't consider myself a Buddhist, but when I think of Buddhism and Buddha, I don't really think of fighting with anybody. I think of meditation. So all of these clashes that we're hearing throughout the world between Buddhists and Muslims is really interesting and a little disorienting and confusing. It doesn't really fit into my little small world view of how people move in the world. Zimbabwe latest, crowds outside Mugabe office to force him out. So they were having a rally and stuff to just try to apply more pressure to get the man to resign. Vladimir Putin could secretly be one of the richest men in the world. An investigative reporter who spent 4 years in Russia explains. 12 amazing destinations that cost less than your average vacation. Some of the places look really, really good, like places I would want to go. The best low-cost airline in the world is taking on Amazon and international banking. This airline is like, hey, duty-free. We can do all of that through you book a ticket, you can buy your duty-free stuff. We can link you digitally to all the things that we have to offer and sell. And, so they're using the airline as a tool for another business, in the same way that people say that McDonald's is one of the largest real estate holders and, makes most of their money off of real estate investing. So that was kind of interesting. We should expect to see another outbreak. Reports of illness from Chipotle are soaring. Now, there's a company or an organization where people can report that they got sick. I got sick here. And I guess before the last outbreak at Chipotle, there was an uptick in reports on this particular site. So they think that it's happening again. Some people say that because of the last outbreak at Chipotle, people are more likely to report Chipotle than other places, but the person who runs the site says, no, this is a real thing. What I'm trying to understand is why Chipotle has such an issue. Now, I've never eaten at Chipotle. When Chipotle became like, woo, all of that, the place where I lived at that time didn't have Chipotle. We had Qdoba. And when I finally got to a place that had Chipotle, and I went inside and I was so excited to see Chipotle and finally get to taste Chipotle, I was like, ew, this place seems dirty and the staff seems crowded and stressed, and I didn't get a good feeling, so I didn't order anything. I didn't have a good feeling about it. According to one estimate, wealthy couples in New York City need $190 million to keep their heads above water. $190 million to keep their heads above water. If they have $189 million, their heads are not going to stay above water if they're a wealthy couple in New York City. John Hope Franklin, pioneer historian and author, say his name. June 2, 1965, the murder of O'Neill Moore, first black deputy sheriff of Washington Parish. Former Trump advisor claims he planted fake viral story about Chris Christie fetching McDonald's for Trump. So he just thought it would be funny to humiliate the guy. That's kind of to humiliate Chris Christie. That's the guy. And people believe the story, I guess, because his demeanor seems like he would be someone who would be like kind of a step and fetch it type. I don't know. But it seemed kind of like mean, and I don't know who are the people, who are these people who are humiliating people just for fun. Or maybe I misunderstood the story and there was some viable reason to try to embarrass someone. I don't know. Even Chris Christie, I'm like, who does that? I'm sure he's done enough real things to be, embarrassed about without having to make up fake stuff to embarrass him about. That was a claim. Inequality has been growing for thousands of years, and it could hint at a future societal collapse. Shaq told how a piece of advice from Magic Johnson helped him transform from a happy-go-lucky basketball star into a successful investor. It's funny how mentoring and how little things can shift your perspective or our perspective on the world. And you never know when some small thing that you say or do for someone or how you interact with someone is impacting them. And likewise, people never know how they're impacting you. Humans used to walk in a totally different way until one shoe innovation. And it's also interesting how the things around us shape us as much as we shape the things around us. So we walk totally different because of shoes. Who knew it? Navy admits one of its air crews drew a penis in the sky over Washington State. Dave Chappelle's third Netflix special will premiere December 31st. I never knew I was a Dave Chappelle fan, but the things that I've seen of him, he seems really talented and funny and insightful. Reverend Jesse Jackson discloses Parkinson's disease diagnosis. So this is old news by now. I guess we all have to make our transition somehow, and we'll deal with all different kinds of things. We have a body, so there are all changes. But just much peace and love to Reverend Jesse Jackson. And when I met him in person, he was fine. He was fine. And I could totally understand he has a reputation for being a hound. But when I met him, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really charismatic and fine. And he was like, I was like young, 20, and he was like 50. you know, whatever the age difference is. But I was like, oh my gosh, in person he's so charismatic and fine. But that's neither here nor there. Much peace and health and good information for you as you deal with your health. Here's how much money there is in the world and why you never heard the exact number. I think it was 33 trillion, I can't remember. Germany bans children's smartwatches over privacy concerns. I think that's smart. Why westbound flights always take significantly longer. 12 satisfying photos of stunning food gradient trend that's taking over Instagram. Instagram, no, they have some stuff going on. Man and wife accidentally shot during church gun safety talk. His gun was loaded and he didn't know it. Now they say, I've never had a gun accident, but they say if you're a gun owner, you're going to have a gun accident. But one of the first things that I was taught is whenever you pick up a gun, you check to see if it's loaded or not. So let that be a lesson and a reminder to all of us. Come Meet a Black Person mixer draws fierce reactions from the public. In Latin America, no more women presidents for now. Meet the black designer behind Kaepernick's GQ cover. I didn't know what it was for. Where you live could have an impact on whether you get diabetes. I think that yeah, we're looping back. So that's what I got. Thanks so much for tuning in. The channel again is Be Fabulous You. I'm Angela. Like, comment, subscribe. We're working on 200 subscribers. Yay! Share. Today is the best day ever. Be you, be fabulous you. Be you, be fabulous you.